Hi folks, and welcome to Attica Armory. Today we'll take a look at a brand new oldie-timey single action that's sure to give heritage firearms a run for their money. This is the Ruger Wrangler in silver Cerakote, and this is actually the model number 2003. We're going to show you a quick overview of some of the key features, as well as looking at some of the pros and cons on either side of those, and then we'll head out to the range and see how it shoots. That said, we currently have no affiliation with the manufacturer, so it'll just be our honest take on this. If you decide to get a Ruger Wrangler, don't forget to check out our cleaning and maintenance videos. We'll show you just how easy it is to clean and lube your guns using Attica Armory citrus-powered synthetic CLP. Also, please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's take a closer look at this working class workhorse. So first off, it does have a transfer bar on the firing pin, so it makes it a lot safer. Here you can kind of see how I squeeze the trigger, transfer bar goes up. Then if I bring the hammer forward and let go of the trigger, you can see how that transfer bar kind of slowly dips down. So unless I'm pulling that trigger back, that transfer bar is not going to be in a position to contact the firing pin. So the sight's nothing too special, but quite functional. We've got the blade in the front, and then we've got the notch in the rear, and those are, they work. They're good enough. So we do have a polymer ejector rod handle, but it does have a steel rod. So it does have checkered polymer grips using the single six pattern. So that's great. I mean, there's single sixes have been around for decades, so there's probably a lot of grips out there for those. And it does have a Cerakote finish. I'm not going to go into too much technical detail as to what Cerakote is, but basically it's kind of a ceramic polymer mix that's sort of baked on. And it's a pretty durable finish. It's unfortunately not as easy to repair if you do mess it up. Bluing is pretty easy to repair. It does have a 4.62 inch cold hammer forged barrel. Now that's great for long-term use. You should get a lot of life out of that barrel. It also has a steel cylinder. That cylinder is not fluted, so there's a lot of metal there. All right, now to the fun stuff. We've got a cast aluminum cylinder frame. Cast aluminum, folks. Yes, I know there's a lot of people that are probably freaking out about that, but we'll see how it holds up. Let's give it a chance. Also, the ejector housing is aluminum. Then the grip frame is a die-cast zinc alloy. And once again, I know a lot of people are going nuts over this stuff, but just remember this is like a $200 gun. So they had to do something in order to pull that off. So using injection molded and die cast and this and that is really the only logical way to pull that off. That said, they feel very robust. So I'm thinking it should, at least my initial impression is that it should be plenty strong to hold up to the .22 long rifle. But wait, we're not finished yet. The hammer and trigger are metal injection molded, or MIM parts. So those are MIM stainless steel. Again, there's probably some of you guys that are having a seizure right now, but they actually seem very solid and well made. We'll see how they hold up over time. The plan is to dump lots and lots of rounds through this thing and really try to torture test it and see where the breakdown point might be. Now the weight on this thing is 30 ounces, and that's, it's pretty stout. I mean, for a .22, that's a heavy gun. It is well balanced though, and it feels nice in your hands. So the action is a little heavy. Definitely, if you're expecting the action of a 100-year-old Colt, you're going to be a little disappointed. But if you keep things in perspective and realize that you're dealing with a $200 gun, it's actually a pretty decent action. I'm pleasantly surprised. All right, let's see what our trigger breaks at. So we're at about 4.5 pounds on that one. Let's try that one more time. So once again, very close to 4.5 pounds. It's really not a bad feeling trigger. There's not much take up, no stacking really. It's just pretty clean. It's actually quite impressive for a MIM trigger. Alright, so let's talk about some of the pros and cons for just a minute. One of the big pros for me, especially on a revolver, is that they didn't shove some weird manual safety or some nanny state internal locks in this thing.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King.
The loading gate is the only thing that really locks this thing and unlocks it. So the loading gate, when it's open, it locks up the action, so you can't cock the hammer. Okay, so that's more than enough safety. Also, the cylinder can rotate in either direction when that gate's open. So that's nice. If you happen to go a little too far and you pass the chamber that you're trying to load, you don't have to go all the way around to get to it. You can just kind of inch it back. So that's a nice little feature. So another one of the real pros for the Wrangler is the total reliability of this gun. Everything I've run through it, fired and extracted very nicely. I didn't have any problems with sticky chambers, and the firing pin seems to make nice deep pits in the rim. This is definitely a gun that I feel like I can count on to go bang when I pull the trigger. The trigger, again, pretty good pro. I mean, for how cheap the gun is, it's got a pretty nice trigger. So let's talk about the fit and finish for a minute. I've seen some nasty comments about, you know, little stuff like, okay, you've got this seam on the bottom or whatever. You've got another thing that I've noticed is that the hammer is actually slightly canted off to the left, and it actually looks like that on multiple different versions that I've seen. So I think this is a kind of a manufacturing thing that is just is what it is. However, it does work. It doesn't affect the functionality of the gun. But again, you know, you got to keep things in perspective. It's a $200 gun. Considering what it is, it's actually got quite good fit and quite good finish. You can kind of see. Let's take a look, show you the barrel crown. So being able to carry this with the hammer down over the top of a loaded chamber is a real plus for me. You know, if this is a bang around truck gun out on a ranch, or if you're going to be toting it around out in the woods going squirrel hunting, or if you're just going to be, you know, wherever, if you're carrying this thing, it's nice to be able to have a full cylinder without any empty chambers. So once again, the balance and the ergonomics are quite good. It feels nice in your hands. It aims very naturally. Overall, it's really a testament to how great the original Colt single action Army really is, for the fact that here we are over a century later and it still feels just as good as it did back then. Another thing that's nice about these is just how easy it is to take down for cleaning. Anybody that's owned a single action is probably familiar with this. Basically just kind of open up that loading gate, press the base pin latch down, and you pull out your base pin right there. Cylinder pops out. Look at how easy that is to clean. You don't have an extractor star. Don't have much of anything. Now, let's talk about the cons for just a sec. One of the big ones for me is that they came out at only 6 shots. I know that it was probably a cost issue, but boy, look at all of that wasted real estate. I mean, they could have put at least 2 more rounds in there, probably 3 more rounds in there. So I kind of wish they would have done that, but I guess I get why they didn't. Next is the price. So it's obviously a very affordable gun, but it's still about 25 to 30% higher than a comparable Heritage Firearms 6-shot. Actually, for the price that this is going for, I can get a Heritage in a 9-shot model with a 22 Magnum second cylinder. So you kind of run into a little bit of a value question there. You know, are you getting the most bang for your buck with this? That's up to you to decide. Also, there are no 22 Magnum options for this, and apparently, from what I've heard, Ruger has no intention of creating a 22 Magnum cylinder for this at any point in the future, due to the fact that it's a cast aluminum cylinder frame. Another con for me was the overall poor accuracy of the Wrangler. I'm not sure if it was inherently inaccurate or if it was just the sights, but in general, I just was not able to shoot this gun very accurately. The biggest issue for me was the rear sight. It's very small and very low profile, and it's just hard to get consistent front sight placement into that rear notch. You'll see when we do some live fire that I really wasn't able to get that good of groups out of the Wrangler. Again, considering the low price of this gun, I think it's still reasonable, and it's still a lot of fun to shoot at steel. Just don't expect a tack driver to shoot pistol matches with. So now that we've covered the basics of the Wrangler, let's take it out to the range and see how it performs. So I will be the first to tell you that I have no clue what I'm doing out here. I'm not a cowboy action shooter, and I'm feeling very nostalgic. I'm having a great time. It's so much fun. I don't even think I'm doing it right, but I'm still having a heyday. I love just flipping my other arm up into the air like I'm just, you know, screaming yeehaw internally each time I pull the trigger, and it's just super fun. This is the kind of shooting that the Ruger Wrangler was really built for. I'm gonna try actually shooting through the camera just so that you guys can see what I'm seeing. Now this is on a tiny little screen, so you'll have to forgive me if my precision is mediocre. I can barely see those sights. Alright, so now we've stepped it back to 30 yards and we put some fresh paint on the targets. I just kind of want to see how it's grouping. We've got some CCI Mini Mag 40 grain round nose, and we're just going to do some offhand, but this time I'm going to use both hands and take my time and aim, and let's see what kind of groups we can get out of it. Okay, one more time, CCI Mini Mag, 40 grain round nose at 30 yards. We're going to be shooting the target on the left this time. And here's our 30-yard groups. I think I missed one shot a little bit high on the right target in that first round. Not too bad for being offhand. So let's go ahead and chrono some rounds and just kind of see where it's at. Got some Winchester hollow points, bulk packs, 36 grain, high velocity. Got some Federal bulk pack. This is the Auto Match. It's a 40 grain round nose, high velocity as well. We've got some Mini Mag 40 grain round nose, high velocity, and then just for fun we've got some 22 short. And these are 29 grain and they are listed at 1080 feet per second, so we'll see how they do out of this guy. And we've got our Chrono F1 set up basically right at about the muzzle. We're just going to be standing a couple of feet back so we can get as close to muzzle velocity as possible. We're going to start off with 36 grain Winchester. 1054, 1058, 1046, 1051, error, 1049. Alright, next up is our Federal Auto Match 40 grain round nose. 944, 911, 944, 910, 932, 909. Alright, next up is our 40 grain mini mags. 1061, 1034, 1055, 1059, 1056, 1036. Alright, so I had to move the Chrono back just a little bit because it's kind of sunset time, almost sunset, and we were starting to get some weird behavior out of the Chrono. So just backed up a hair, same distance, basically almost point blank. See how it does with these 22 shorts. 1015, 1023, 974, 977, 1040, 978. So as you can see, we still managed to maintain some pretty respectable velocities despite being a pistol, and despite the fact that it's got a pretty sizable barrel to cylinder gap. It's at a 0.009 inch on that barrel cylinder gap here as I measured. So really not too bad. I mean, you've still got well over 1,000 feet per second with the mini mags, which gives you a respectable velocity for small game or pest control. So overall, I'm pleased with the velocities that came out of this thing. Alright, so that was a lot of fun for a $200 gun, give or take. So I really enjoyed shooting this thing, even though accuracy was what I would consider maybe marginal by any regular standards. But if you keep it in perspective for how cheap this gun is, it actually shot pretty good. I mean, I was able to ring the 100-yard gong with it. Really, overall, the accuracy wasn't bad. I think the biggest drawback to the accuracy factor is the kind of diminutive sights, and you know, there's not much you can do about that, but I understand why they had to do that. I mean, you're not going to be able to get into this price point with a nice set of adjustable sights, so that's not really too big of a deal for me. Now, one thing I really love about this gun, and really about all single action revolvers, is just how simple and rugged these things are. So I think the bottom line on the Wrangler is that Ruger managed to squeeze in quite a bit of gun for a really low price point. I mean, it's quite amazing what they're able to pull off. And we'll see how it holds up in the long run. I really didn't feel like I had any concerns with some of these alternative materials that are being used in this thing. I think it's probably built strong enough to handle the 22, and I'm not too terribly worried about it. Of course, time will tell. Maybe we'll do a 5,000 or a 10,000 round review one day down the road when we've had this thing for a while, and see how it's doing. I really hope this video was entertaining and informative for you guys. I know I really enjoyed shooting this gun, and I'm looking forward to putting more rounds downrange with it. And with that, thanks for visiting us today, and we'll see you again next time at Attica Armory.